The left will never stop their agenda to take over America. You are their enemy, and they will not negotiate. Prepare yourselves. Welcome to the Blue Shark Show with your host, Mike Lang.
Let's talk PACs, political action committees, and then we're going to have to talk about culture too, because that affects what the PACs do, who they spend money on, what PACs actually are for. And I'm all for having a PAC, people getting involved, putting money into candidates, because if you don't have money, you're not going to be able to run. So let's talk about the PACs and the culture and what it means to, let's say, Granbury ISD, because we have those races coming up. So Nate, let's talk about what the PACs are, because I know you've got at least one PAC, right?
Yes, I recently started Conservatives for Granbury ISD, and I am proud to say that every dollar that comes through that PAC is from people in Hood County. That is a 100% local conservatives teaming up. We're doing a deal if you want to donate about $100 with 100 people. We're shooting for 10 grand. And we've got that PAC, and then also in town is the Hood County Republican PAC, which is ran by some rhinos, some fake Republicans. And then we've got the Hood County Real Republican PAC, which separates the people that talk a good game from the people that actually follow through.
So what we're talking about with PACs is, and you'll see it a lot of times with mailers or campaign signs,
advertisements on Hood County News.
Yeah. Political ads paid for by a certain PAC or a certain person, or they'll run a slate of individuals together for a PAC, whatever it may be. So that's the money behind the candidates. And don't get me wrong, I know I've run a lot of races, so it takes money to run a race. Unless you're independently wealthy.
That's a hardcore fact of it, is it takes money. The mailers, the push cards, the signs, the big signs, the billboards, the digital ads, it all takes money.
And that's what runs a campaign and fuels a campaign, and also the door knocking. But that's all we talk about, pieces of the puzzle. But that's all part of it. But I would like to get back to the PACs.
Here locally, because they're all over. Everybody's got PACs, nationally and state and local. But let's get back to local on some of the treasurers of the certain PAC. So you're the treasurer of your PAC, correct? Yeah, Conservatives for Granbury ISD.
So we have different PACs. And what we have is like a federal PAC, and people can do things without sometimes the knowledge of the candidate that is running. We have state PACs, and then we have local PACs, and sometimes the PACs have to file with Texas Ethics Commission, which is the TEC, and sometimes, like I believe in one of your PACs, or your PACs are local, that you through the school board, that you file certain things, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I pride myself on. The PACs that I run for local races, the donations come from locals. It's all local people. So Conservatives for Granbury ISD, which we have a fund hero set up if you'd like to donate. This is funded entirely by conservatives in Hood County. And then the other two PACs that we had talked about, the Hood County Republican PAC, which is again a phony, and then the Hood County Real Republican PAC, those are state-level PACs, which are governed in a different way. They have to file through the state, and they have more stringent requirements as far as how frequent they have to file. And
so the Hood County Real Republican PAC is the treasurer, and the people doing that PAC is like listed as Christine Leftwich, right?
Yeah, Christine Leftwich and Nancy Higgins run that PAC.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we have a guy that just moved to town here a little while back and ran unsuccessfully for commissioner. Zach Maxwell is the treasurer for the Hood County Republican PAC, which again is a total farce.
We've been talking about the culture, and it has, the PACs and the culture, they kind of meld together. And when we talk about the PAC supporting the Barbara Townsends, the Paula McDonalds, the Billy Wimberleys,
the fake Republicans.
Yes, and we talk about that. you've got to look at, of course, who's part of that PAC and who do they support. And you even came up with a sign, right? Another sign in somebody's yard?
Yeah, I came across it after looking at the Texas Ethics Commission and seeing where the headquarters for this phony Republican PAC is. I decided to drive by, and what did I see in the front yard? I saw a sign that said Republicans for Grant Wood, who's a Democrat running for county commissioner. So here you have a guy running a PAC that says Hood County Republican PAC, but he's got a sign in the front yard of the PAC headquarters saying Republicans for a Democrat, Republicans for a socialist, Republicans for a communist. I mean, it's everything that we see on the national level with the rhinos and the, it's like in Congress when they call a bill the free puppy bill. Okay, when do I get my free puppy? Well, this doesn't do that. It actually raises your electricity cost.
Your taxes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a Republican PAC that is supporting, in name only, a Republican PAC.
Rhino PAC.
That is supporting Grant Wood, who's a Democrat, who we all know is, now, Grant Wood, by all accounts, I keep saying he may be a nice guy and whatever, but he's running as a Democrat. That's different values from this show.
Well, and he said during the last commissioner's court that he was against the invasion.
Yeah, against the invasion.
Calling the border situation an invasion. This is a guy that's against border security. He's against everything the overwhelming majority of this community stands for. And here you've got the head of the Hood County Republican PAC with a sign in his front yard.
And so we've got different PACs that back different people. Mm-hmm. And folks, I'm all for, once again, if you want to donate to a candidate, you want to be a candidate and run, I'm all for that. The more, the merrier. You want to donate to whoever you like, whatever PAC you like. But let's kind of, dive down into what these PACs are about and who these PACs are for, so when you donate, who you're donating for and the candidates and the culture that the candidates bring to local races. And actually, local races, you don't have to file a TEC report, but some of the PACs do. Like
the state level PACs,
they do.
They have to.
So, like the Christine Leftwich, and she was on the show, by the way, did a great job. And then the Nancy Higgins that run that PAC, they would have to file through state Texas Election Commission.
Yes, they have to file, and they are good about filing on time, unlike their fraudulent counterpart that's running the Hood County Republican PAC, aka the Rhino PAC, that is actually currently under investigation by the Texas Ethics Commission.
And why would they be under investigation?
Because they're not disclosing where donations are coming from and all this type of stuff. I actually filed that because I do believe in things like integrity and honesty and telling people where your money's coming from and being upfront about it. And apparently that's not something that's enjoyed by that PAC, who, by the way, is supporting the incumbents on the school board and also supporting Billy Wimberly, who was handpicked by the incumbents to continue on the head in the sand approach of the Granbury ISD School Board.
So we're looking at a PAC that's labeled a Republican PAC.
It's kind of like John McCain calling himself a Republican. He never was.
Or Liz Cheney.
Or Mitt Romney. We've got them all over the place. And unfortunately, here locally, there was a little mix-up with the paperwork when we ran that last cycle, and some paperwork didn't get filed promptly. The treasurer now of the Republican PAC took advantage of that and co-opted that name and was able to get it, and there's no way to get it back. So that's fine. And, I like that we make it easy for the voters to see that, like, it's easy to call yourself a Republican. But if you're a real Republican, if you're someone that believes in the platform and believes in putting your money where your mouth is, we have the real Republican PAC.
If you like the show, you like what we're doing, please go to thebluesharkshow.com and sign up for our member-only access at $4 a month. And to break it down for the people that watch the show, you can give your money to whoever you like. But what we're running into is we're running into people that are actually not Republicans,
Verifiably not Republicans.
and they're calling themselves a Republican PAC. So if you get a flyer, if you get something in the mail that says Republican PAC, you need to really look and see what that is about.
And if it's got real Republican on there, because if it doesn't have real, it's fake.
And what you observed the other day is the person, the treasurer that has a Republican PAC, so-called, that is for the incumbents in the school board race. And
those incumbents, by the way, their voting records show that they voted for things like pro-CRT bonds. They voted for things like shutting our schools down and masking our kids, and also pushing the bond. Don't forget that $500 million bond that all three of those candidates that are being supported by this fake Republican PAC, or just Hood County Republican PAC, they all are on record supporting those things.
And that brings me to the culture aspect of what's going on. And, you know, more than ever for me, you have a trustee, and you may, and we've said it before, you may like Barbara Townsend. I don't have a problem with Barbara Townsend as a person. You may like Paula McDonald, and that's fine. You know, I don't have a problem with people as they are. But when they're elected to do a job and they fail at the most basic level to protect the kids, and I'm talking the books in the library, the porn in the library, and I don't think anybody would have run. I mean, this is like one of the biggest issues besides security for your kids at school, and who wouldn't be for that? But I think the culture of what not just GISD, but public schools in general have brought to the table and buried their head in the sand. All we're looking for is somebody that stands up and says, let's get the books out.
And it's easy to stand up and say that. What is harder is to have an elected official that will actually follow through with that. Like we've established, and like their voting records established, Barbara Townsend and Paula McDonald have a record of not standing up for those things. They may say the right things at times. Paula much more so than Barbara. Barbara, during the bond debacle, was telling me that we had to renovate all those elementary schools, not adding classroom space, purely for purposes of equity. So it's easy to say the right things, but it takes somebody with courage, and it takes a real Republican to put those words into practice.
And that's where the PACs start, you know, being behind and supporting financially all these candidates, which comes into the culture of, if you're a trustee and you haven't gotten those books out of the library for a year now, almost 11, 12 months, shame on you. You need to go. And that's my standpoint. And I think that's a lot of people's standpoint, is what's taking so long. You can make whatever policy you want, but just get the books out of the library and get out of the way. And they haven't been able to do that, which brings me back to the culture of the trustees that follow and I hate to say it, but the TASB, TASA, the Association of School Boards.
Well, they don't have a spine. They don't have an individual thought or unique position within their minds. They do what they're told. They take the directives from organizations and unions that they perceive to be higher than them, instead of taking the directives of the people whom they are elected to represent. And that is really pretty sickening when you look at how our system of representative constitutional government is supposed to be.
And, you know, we're talking about the PACs and the culture together. And what I want to look at is, you know, there was a homecoming parade for GISD. And I'd like to look at some of the photos that were put on social media and by the candidates themselves, and what PACs sponsored it.
Yeah, I stumbled across this picture, and being a, Politico, I took a look at the disclaimer down at the bottom, and it says, paid political advertising by Hood County Republican PAC. And when I saw that, I said, wasn't that the same person running that PAC that was on CNN just a little while back talking mad trash about conservatives, people in the oil and gas industry that are mega donors to conservative candidates and causes. Isn't that same guy? And sure enough, on the Texas Ethics Commission, he still shows to be the treasurer.
And the sign is vote the 3 GISD, Townsend, McDonald, and Wimberley. Now, what I have heard, and from very reliable sources, that Billy Wimberley is kin to Tim Dunn. So, do we actually have the treasurer of this PAC going after Tim Dunn and the Wilks, and yet here we stand with Billy Wimberley, who's kin of Tim Dunn.
In-law, yeah.
So he's some type of an in-law. And are they going, is he for them now in the CNN article? And I guess the show is totally wrong, or he lied through that, or did he lie through this? I mean, is he for the Dunns? Is he against the Dunns? Is he for the family? That's where the PACs, and we've got to really look at who's donating and how this culture's coming together. So are they, the East Texas, West Texas, all the oil and Texas people, is he for them or against them now?
Well, that's a great question, and I really have to wonder if the treasurer of the fake Republican PAC, the Hood County Republican PAC, as we've established, if he even knows that Wimberley is kin to Tim Dunn, one of the West Texas billionaires. He was on record on CNN bragging about it, going against everything they stand for, going against closing the border, going against, the sanctity of life, going against the Second Amendment, going against all the conservative things that we've been able to accomplish these last few years. And I don't know if Billy just got wrapped up with the wrong crowd, or he didn't know, or if Zach didn't know, or if the Dunns don't know, or whatever, but it's pretty funny to see how much attention has been brought to this specific race in Granbury ISD.
So you have a PAC with Townsend, McDonald, and Wimberley, and they're all supporting each other.
Oh, all over the place. They're running as an outward slate, which in my professional opinion is a bad strategy, but I don't want to tell them that. They can keep doing it.
So they're all supporting each other on the heels of the CNN interview with the treasurer of that PAC and going after the specific people that give money to all the real conservatives and people that stand for what's morally right.
And do what they say they're going to do, most importantly.
So there's kind of a conundrum here of what the heck's going on? And, first of all, what's Billy Wimberley doing? I mean, are they, I saw things on social media like grab your popcorn, this CNN thing's going to be big. It was a total flop, just like CNN is. Any, liberal... Here they are, a liberal, the most liberal TV that there is, CNN. And now are they for what they just fought against as treasurer of this PAC?
Unfortunately, I think it's probably more likely, and I try to use Occam's razor and thing, whatever is the most simple solution is probably it. Looking at this, I feel like Wimberley was either duped, which is, that happens. Good people get wrapped up with bad people a lot. I've seen it a lot. Or he's secretly working against members of his own family. Either way is unacceptable. And, if he were to want to rectify this and run at a later date after earning some stripes and distancing himself not only from the Texas Ethics Commission's issues that are going on with this PAC, but also Paula McDonald and her fraudulent or substandard degree.
Man, you bring that up, and I tell you what, we have not heard from Paula McDonald at all.
Not a peep.
We put out, and it's still, come on in, sit down in the studio, let's talk about your THD, your PhD, and that is like radio silent. We haven't heard a word. They don't want to talk about that issue. But I'm here to tell you that that's a problem. And when that's a problem and you have Barbara Townsend helping cover this up, I want to know that, at least if Paula McDonald comes up and says, hey, there was a mess up, a misunderstanding, we had to change, and we had that in the last show. We had to change everything.
Hang on. Nobody gets their PhD in a year. I refuse to believe that there's just some sort of mix-up here. I mean, it is, after talking to some registrars and professionals within the higher education community, everyone that I've talked to has said, no, this is totally substandard. That accreditation is substandard. Calling herself a PhD before was fraudulent. And, at the end of the day, it's not just Barbara covering up this controversy. It's Barbara, the school board president, covering up this crime.
And you're on a slate with Barbara Townsend, Paula McDonald, and Billy Wimberly. And Wimberly's, he attached himself to this, whether he wanted to or not. So I want to hear from Barbara Townsend and Billy Wimberly on what do you think about Paula McDonald's PhD versus THD? And it was wrong to change everything like the way they did. Well, it was correct to do it, but they shouldn't have PhD to begin with.
Well, and they shouldn't have THD today. I mean, that THD isn't even recognized by the district whenever they hire teachers or administrators. Why should they recognize it on a plaque, and why should they pay for all those changes? Because, those plaques cost money. Changing stuff on the website costs money and man hours and manpower. Why would they do all that?
Culture. It's all the culture of the trustees.
Keeping the reputation of the district above all else, above honesty, above integrity, and above student safety. The culture within GISD at this time, unfortunately, and it pains me to say this as a graduate of GISD, it pains me to say that culture is substandard right now. And I think that's why a lot of voters this November will be choosing change.
Why don't the Barbara Townsends, the Barbara Harringtons, the Courtney Gores, and Melanie's already come out. Why don't the others come out and say, yes, what she did as far as Paula McDonald is wrong. We rectified the situation, whatever it may be, like it or not, whatever it may be, they need to come out and say, this was wrong. This would not be tolerated on anybody's, whether they filled out a resume or anything else. And we brought up, it could even be illegal, and you put that in, and you brought up Dick Rohn, the old commissioner. Why don't they come out and say Paula McDonald was wrong, and she should have never done that?
Because they don't want to damage their own reputations, and they don't want to damage the reputation of the GISD. Again, they place that reputation above honesty, integrity, and safety for everyone in the district.
And that's the culture. So that brings me to another aspect of it. We have that same board, minus Melanie Graff. We know where she stands. She said it publicly.
And she does what she says she'll do. That's what I love about Melanie is when she was running, she said, here's what I'm going to do. And she has stuck by that. Unlike the person we elected at the same time, Courtney Gore, who's been an entire and complete and total disappointment.
Yes, I would say disappointment is a big word. And I go back to that culture of, do you want to do the right thing and not be liked by everybody? Or
do you want to
go,
liked?
Yeah, be liked.
You want the Facebook and Instagram likes?
Be the little darling and
affirmation.
And go on. Yeah. But, it's got to come to a point in time, and I keep going back to the porn and the sexual content for age-inappropriate people in the library. And, I don't know how strong I can talk about this, but the current board minus the trustees, minus Melanie Graff, have not done a damn thing other than put together a committee and some policies over the year instead of yanking those books out. And I think of all issues, and you can put security up to the top too, to me, that's the number one issue of protecting our kids in those, public libraries.
Yeah, absolutely. They have chosen to pacify the leftists around here. They've chosen to stack the committee. They've chosen to keep the overwhelming majority of those inappropriate books on the shelves. And it's like we have had to drag them kicking and screaming for the very marginal progress that we've made this last year since all this came about.
And you mentioned Courtney for a while, and Courtney's an elected official. And Courtney was on this show for at beginning. I mean, she kind of started with the show after, a few months, but Courtney, by all accounts, she's conservative in some things, but when it pertains to school things, she's not, in my opinion, conservative. And I've talked to Courtney beforehand, and I've talked to her in a while. But I did tell her, I said, look, you can vote however you want for the school bond, whatever you want. But that doesn't mean people are going to vote for you again. So whatever you want to do, however you want to do this, you bought into the culture, that's evident. You still may be conservative on a federal level as far as president.
Sure, that's easy.
Yeah, and that's easy for a lot of people. But when it comes down to it, we've had some conversations, and you're welcome, just like anybody else, to come on and explain to our viewers why you didn't do what you said you were going to do. I've talked to many viewers that, and I don't want to make this all about, Courtney, but that's part of the culture because she's not up for re-election.
Well, it's just about accountability. Just like holding Barbara accountable to her record and Paula McDonald accountable to her record. We have to hold these people accountable. And when you have someone that says all the right things but won't do any of them, you got to get rid of them at your first opportunity. And voters have an opportunity to get rid of 2 bad apples and one, puppet hand-chosen candidate this November.
And we do. And I want to get into more of social media and when elected officials post on social media. And this isn't some private text that, we get, or you're blowing off steam to one of your friends or supposed friends, and this
talking to your therapist,
whatever it may be. I don't like getting into private texts and things like that, but if you put things out there, publicly, and you want to play the social media game as a social media darling and the culture of it, when you have Courtney Gore, Barbara Townsend, and Barbara Harrington, and Courtney and Barbara Harrington are not up, and they're on different posts, and they're liking and hearting, loving, whatever it's called on social media. A certain post about somebody that called, and they're referring to Monica and Karen, I think, about Sister Cindy. And Sister Cindy is a person on TikTok. Yeah, she's a shock jock. And she goes out and talks to certain things for, and I wouldn't say it's a mental issue like somebody would say.
I think it's just the truthful hyperbole. She goes out and says stuff like, hey, women, stop having babies with men you don't care for. But she says it in a lot cruder terms.
Yes. When they reference that on a local level and they start calling people women that want the porn out of schools and put into, age appropriateness, when they start saying that and they call people like maybe a Karen Lowry or Monica Brown or whoever's standing up, and they make fun of and mock people that speak at the GISD meetings, board of trustees, whatever you want to call it, the citizens that come up, and you have Barbara Townsend and Courtney Gore and Barbara Harrington liking this stuff where they're mocking citizens.
Which is maybe why we have such a problem within GISD with the bullying, is because the people at the top of the district participate in it themselves. As much as they like to speak against it, their actions say otherwise.
And that's the culture we keep talking about. The culture that's infested into Granbury ISD that keeps the good teachers from saying what they need to say, what they believe that's morally right. It keeps that down, and it takes your Angie Paynes, your assistant principals, and it brings them up to the level of, hey, if I do this in public, I'm going to get promoted.
Oh, Angie Payne during the bond election was all over social media, being a cheerleader for the bond, personally disparaging a lot of really good people, trying to insinuate that they don't care about public education and all this stuff. And what happened there during the summer, they promoted her. Now she is an assistant principal to Acton Elementary just like they promoted Wade Clark, who's now the chief of security, just like they promoted the that other one that's juiced in, married to the other assistant superintendent. It's like they take care of their, Leah Dawson. They take care of those that are willing to go out and be nasty and be bullies and talk a bunch of ridiculous smack about good people. Often, more often than not, overwhelmingly actually, founded completely out of truth.
And folks, I'm all for people speaking and having their First Amendment rights and speaking out. But it seems to me with the culture at GISD, you can only have your First Amendment right or speak out if you're on the same page with the superintendent and most of the trustees.
And if you're not, then you get retaliated against.
Certainly not, right?
No, that's absolutely what they do. I've known people in GISD for many years, and there is a clear culture of retaliation inside GISD at each one of the schools. And beyond the retaliation, they also compartmentalize a lot of things. They hate shining a light on any of their problems. They want to pretend that it's all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns, when in reality, we have a lot of problems, and those problems will never be solved if the district refuses to admit that to the people, the community.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, folks. When we talk and say, know who's supporting, do your research to supporting these candidates, because you have somebody with a sign in the yard for Republicans for Grant Wood who's for abortion, for taking your weapons away from you, for, Beto, for Biden. This is somebody that is pure Democrat, open borders, you name it. And you have a so-called Republican PAC that is supporting Grant Wood, who's against Commissioner Dave Eagle, who's one of the most Republican, stand by the platform person, stand by the Constitution, both U.S. and Texas, that you can get.
There is nobody that is that fits that bill more than Commissioner Dave Eagle. He's been going to these state conventions for years. He routinely talks to the Republican Executive Committee about things like the platform and the planks and how it comes about and how important the Constitution is. It's like, for him, the guy leading this so-called Republican PAC, to be against Commissioner Eagle, and I get it, like he's upset that he got his butt whipped in the last primary election 60-40. But it's like, dude, you got to look past that. Republicans, one of the things that I really like about the overwhelming majority of the party is that, we go through the primary and maybe we support different people for governor, but after we choose our nominees, that's who we are for. And to deviate from that, it's like, dude, don't call it a Hood County Republican PAC. Call it a Hood County Independent PAC or a Hood County
Democrat. That's what you are.
Hood County Democrat PAC, whatever.
And even if there was somebody running against Judge Massengill, and this show's been against Judge Massengill for a lot of things, I would vote for Massengill over a Democrat.
Not
Hands
even a
down.
contest.
And we've had issues with Governor Abbott, but I'm voting for Governor Abbott way over Beto.
I donated money to Abbott. As hard as I went against him in the primary, I saw that he was running against Beto, and I said, Beto's pulling in all this money from these freakwads in California and these fruitcakes in New York. I'm going to give some money to Governor Abbott to make sure that he's able to make it through this.
That's the way the Republican Party, the platform, everything should go. But when you're out there doing PACs and then you have a sign for a Democrat, it's not the right culture thing to do. And that PAC that goes for the Democrats, that's against, saving babies' lives. You're going to kill babies. You're going to take everybody's guns away from you. Yet you're going to have that sign in your yard. And not only are you going to do that, that same PAC is with Barbara Townsend, with Paula McDonald, and with Billy Wimberly.
So we've got a fake Republican with a fake Republican PAC pushing more fake Republicans that sweep everything in the schools under the rug. They don't care about porn in the schools. They voted for the CRT grants. They weaken school security. They say the right things sometimes, but ultimately they don't have the stones to follow through with what they're saying. And, that's the situation. You've got a bunch of phonies running under the Republican banner. And, frankly, they're a disgrace to the party, the whole lot of them.
So you take the two issues of security, and to me, the number one issue of the books and the porn in the grade schools, elementary schools, middle schools, and that to me is the biggest one is, and I keep going back to it because it should be a no-brainer, and you've got the trustees, except for Melanie, that are just going along with this, and they say they're for the kids, and they want to take pictures at homecoming football games, the trustees.
Totally staged and cringeworthy.
Bring themselves back to when they were in high school. And I can tell you what, and I may come on a roll, you get on a roll here, but I'm not here for a trustee to relive their glory days as a cheerleader back when they were in high school. I could care less. The kids don't need another best friend. They got enough freaking friends. What I want from a trustee, I want somebody that's going to take care of those kids and put them number one, get those damn books out of the library, and let's restart. Make sure that your security chief and your security department is best as it can be, and change the culture of GISD. Let's get that fixed. And the incumbents have had years and years and years and years and years to do that. And they failed. Maybe great people, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. You failed at your jobs. Let's get some new people in there to fix this book situation and the security situation. Because as a trustee, frankly, I don't need you as the kid's best friend. I need you as a trustee taking care of the citizens, doing what's right with my money that I give you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year to do the right thing and to protect our kids. And once again, Barbara Townsend, you failed to do your job. Paula McDonald, you failed to do your job. Mark Jackson, you failed to do your job. Maybe great people, but you failed at your job, and there's new people to put in.